Millions of Americans are waiting on Congress and the White House to act as crucial pandemic protections are set to expire. Both the $600 per week unemployment bonus and the federal moratorium on evictions will expire by the end of next week. And there's no sign it'll be resolved by Friday. After talks between Senate Republicans and President Trump's negotiators stalled yesterday. Meanwhile, the president is canceling the Jacksonville, Florida portion of the Republican National Convention. He says with the surge in coronavirus cases, it is not the right time for a big celebration. Still, Mr. Trump is pushing to keep schools open. Yesterday, the CDC issued revised guidance on how schools could go about doing that. CBS News White House correspondent Ben Tracy has the latest.
It's just not right with what's happened recently, the flare-up in Florida. To have a big convention, it's not the right time.
In a sudden about-face, President Trump has been forced to bow to the reality of the coronavirus, canceling the Jacksonville portion of the convention. He says he's setting a good example.
It's hard for us to say we're going to have a lot of people packed in a room and then other people shouldn't do it. You are warriors. Thank you.
But just last month, the president held a rally in Tulsa. He filled an auditorium in Phoenix and has complained about not being able to hold large events. The president's desire for a packed convention night speech was hitting a wall of resistance in Florida, which is battling one of the worst outbreaks of the virus in the country. This week, the sheriff of Jacksonville said he could not guarantee the safety and security of the event.
The children obviously have a very strong immune system.
But the president has not stopped calling for schools to reopen, although he has softened his demand for places where the virus is surging.
Districts may need to delay reopening for a few weeks, and that's possible. That'll be up to governors.
The administration complained that the CDC's original guidance on schools reopening was too tough. Revised guidance issued Thursday now falls in line, stating COVID-19 poses relatively low risk to school-age children. It does recommend keeping students in pods to reduce the risk of spread, as well as social distancing, face masks, and hand hygiene.
There are more rules, it seems, to opening a restaurant safely than to opening your neighborhood elementary school.
Teachers' unions are frustrated and say the president cares more about the safety of his convention than the nation's schools.
It wasn't safe to put a whole bunch of rich and powerful people in that convention hall. Now, take the same advice from the Republican convention folks and apply that to a third grade.
Ben Tracy is at the White House and joins me now. Hi, Ben. So how is the president justifying wanting to reopen schools but not putting his convention attendees at risk? And then what will the final convention look like?
Well, in the first part of that, in terms of him justifying it, he's really not attempting to justify it. He doesn't really link the two. He doesn't see them as the same thing. It was fairly striking yesterday during that briefing that he spent the first half basically explaining why he feels it's necessary to cancel the convention due to safety concerns, but then right away saying, you know, kids have strong immune systems and we should open the schools. The one small change in the president's message yesterday did come when he said that some schools may not be able to reopen right away in these areas that are seeing coronavirus surges, saying that'll be up to the governors and perhaps they might have to delay for a couple of weeks. But this is a president that just 48 hours ago said, I want to see the schools open 100%, and said that he wants his own son and his grandkids to go back to school. So he's pretty much all in on this. In terms of the convention itself, the first night will still take place in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's when the delegates will formally nominate the president. But that's going to be a pretty small affair, largely behind the scenes. As to where and when the president gives his big acceptance speech, that's still up in the air. He was asked yesterday here at the White House if he would do that at the White House. He did not deny that, but he said he'll make a formal announcement in the next couple of days.
And Ben, what is the status of the White House's negotiation with Senate Republicans on a phase 4 stimulus package? The clock is ticking.
Yeah, the clock has been ticking for a while now, and it doesn't appear that we're really off first base on this whole thing when you see how far it has to go when you're talking about negotiations with the Democrats before we get any sort of bill that's going to pass Congress. The White House and Senate Republicans still have not reached a final deal. That's why Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has not come out with the proposal. He had hoped to do that yesterday and had to delay that because there are still some sticking points. The sticking point seems to be about the level of unemployment insurance benefit that the federal government's going to extend. That's the $600 a week that the federal government has been supplementing state unemployment benefits with. That's been a lifeline for a lot of people in this country right now who are unemployed. There's most Republicans say that it will get extended, but probably at a lower level because they want to incentivize people to get back to work. They do have some agreement on money that they're going to give to schools, about $105 billion, about $16 billion for testing. But keep in mind, once the Republicans finally come together and say, here's what we want, they then have to go talk to the Democrats and figure out how they're going to all agree on something. And it's a huge gulf. The Republicans are talking about a $1 trillion stimulus, and the Democrats are talking about a $3 trillion stimulus. And there's a lot of things the Democrats want in those $2 trillion in the middle. So this could go on for weeks.
All right. Well, Ben Tracy at the White House, thank you so much for that.
Thanks.